me.
That's all I did.
I hate you.
Holy shit, Danny.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am James Gisanti, and this is the Gympact Zone, where we cover all things TNA, Impact Wrestling, here at Mark It Down. The dust is finally starting to settle a little bit. After Hard to Kill, this new era of TNA, Impact no more. We're starting to feel a little more natural here. It's starting to feel less like a gimmick. It's starting to feel less like a change and more like the reality of what this company is going to be. We've seen certain storylines continue. We're seeing some plot threads being picked up again. And we're also starting to see some new storylines in general start to manifest. One of the biggest things to come out of TNA Hard to Kill was the debut of Nic Nemeth, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler. He immediately made a splash, debuting post-main event, going after the world champion Moose, but his attention really hasn't been directed towards Moose or the system. He's been, I don't want to say distracted, but he's been trying to establish himself, taking on members of the TNA faithful, in this instance, the Rascals. The Rascals, last week, he took on Zachary Wentz, and this week he took on Trey Miguel. Eric in the comments saying the guy finally becomes a star in a different company and goes for the mid-card title. Makes no sense. I believe we're talking about Mustafa Ali. One thing I do want to say, the X Division Championship isn't like a mid-card title in other companies. It's not inherently lesser than the world title. I mean, granted, everything should be lesser than the world title, but it's always been its own division. It does not really lay claim to being that mid-card belt that we're established with the U.S. title for WWE, the Intercontinental title for WWE, or now like the International title or the TNT title for AEW. This has always been its own brand where certain stars have gone on to flourish and find more success than ever in the world division. People like Samoa Joe, AJ Styles tended to flourish more in the X division than they did in the world title scene. Philip on Facebook is saying TNA is still unwatchable. Phil, first off, thanks for being here. Really appreciate you tuning in. I do got to disagree with you though, pal. I don't think TNA is unwatchable. This isn't the old days of LOL TNA. They have put together a very, very consistent product. This is a show that might be lacking in true, genuine star power. It's missing that bona fide star that you can build a company around. But from top to bottom, they're putting on a product that week in, week out, I'm able to enjoy, I'm able to follow, and there are very few low points. There are plenty of highs. But more often than not, I know that I'm going to be getting my money's worth watching TNA. And yes, I'm paying to watch TNA. Guys, we saw TNA. We saw various TNA wrestlers and personnel today on social media showing all the different ways that if you want to watch TNA, you can. In the US, it's on Access TV. If you want to stream it, you could do it through YouTube or TNA Plus. There are so many different ways to stream it. It's not hard, and TNA has made it readily available to help you look for it. So go check it online through their social media. But moving forward, we're going to go towards the first match where we had Nic Nemeth taking on Trey Miguel of the Rascals after Nick took on Zachary Wentz last week. I almost messed up. I almost said Dolph, but Nick is working his way through. It's very clear he wants to establish himself in this roster. He didn't want to debut immediately going for the title. It's kind of reminiscent to me of when Christian Cage debuted in AEW. He immediately attacked Kenny Omega. He immediately attacked the AEW and at the time Impact World Champion, but didn't continue with that feud until a little bit later. He found his attention elsewhere. And I think that's what's happening with Nick. He immediately made a splash by debuting against the biggest man in the company, but he's working his way through, getting himself comfortable. And Nick looks like a believable threat in this company now. He's 2-0 now, having defeated both Zachary Wentz and now Trey Miguel. The one thing I will say, there isn't a lot of differences between who Dolph Ziggler was and who Nic Nemeth is now. That was one of Nick's big talking points last week when he, or 2 weeks ago, when he cut his big debut promo. he wants to establish who Nic Nemeth is. He wants to show all the success he found formerly, he's going to be able to do again as Nic Nemeth on his own terms. That's great. I'm all for it. And of course, we know he can't be Dolph Ziggler because of legal reasons. But I want to know what separates Nic Nemeth from Dolph Ziggler moving forward. And it shouldn't just be yellow tights or new move names. We have a tweet, solid match between Nic Nemeth and Trey Miguel of the Rascals. Steve Macklin's presentation since Nick showed up in TNA has been awesome. I'm going to get to Macklin in a second. Steve Macklin is a great first test for Nic Nemeth in TNA. Not that Nic Nemeth needs to prove anything. Nice post-match beatdown. I gotta say, I don't know that that's true, that Nic Nemeth doesn't have something to prove here in TNA. I am a huge Nic Nemeth fan. I loved his work as Dolph Ziggler in WWE, but I think we'd all be lying to ourselves if we said that by the end of his run in WWE, we were all a little tired. We were all a little worn out from seeing Dolph. We know how good he is. We know how capable he is of putting on a good match, cutting a great promo, but it's been a lot of been there, done that, unfortunately. And that's what happens when you were with a company for 20 years, as Dolph was with WWE. So Nick does need to prove that he's not just some WWE cast-off. He can be a major force in TNA and not just another guy like he was in WWE. So I do have to say, I think he has something to prove, and I think he's doing a good job of it. A quote from Nic Nemeth on Twitter: "It got to a point where Patterson was pitching for me so much for years that the second highest exec could be in a meeting at that point would be like, yeah, we're just at a point where we're just making you lose just to watch Pat's face," Nic Nemeth said. That's disgusting. That's disgusting, but not really shocking, or the worst thing that a WWE executive has been accused of on the internet this week or last week. So not too shocking. The match was fine. Again, a little bit more than we saw last week. Last week, Nick finishing the match with the Danger Zone, also known as, or formerly known as the Zigzag. This week, finishing the match with a super kick. So we're establishing that Nick could finish a match with multiple finishes. I do like that. It's buffing the super kick, a move that he almost never got a win with in WWE. So good stuff so far. Good way of getting Nick established in this new roster against this new talent. But a good way of continuing the story as well, as the second week in a row, Steve Macklin jumps Nick after the match. Except unlike last week, where Nick was able to get the upper hand and take on everybody who beat him down, being both members of the Rascals and Steve Macklin, this week the numbers were too much. Macklin setting up the Rascals for a double super kick onto Nemeth, and then hitting him with the KIA to keep him down. Macklin, as that tweet said a second ago, Macklin definitely has found new life and is finding a lot of passion in this storyline. He was floundering a little bit, in my opinion, post-world title loss, but it seems this really high-profile feud is just what he needed to sort of get the gas going. So excited for that eventual matchup. It's going to be a good test for both former WWE superstars. We then go backstage where Diener of the Design is getting ready to start his usual spiel about regrouping, reforming, and getting the Design back on track, but he is interrupted by Big Khan, who tells him that the Design is dead because he says so. I did not have a big push for Big Khan on my bingo list for TNA in 2024, but here we are. We're going to get into that a little bit more later, but as many people would probably say, as did the crowd tonight, yay, no more of the Design. It was a group that just wasn't working. Great concept, unfortunately poor execution. We then deal with the fallout of this new trio of Steve Macklin and the Rascals, who are very excited about what they just did to Nic Nemeth as they bump into Speedball Mike Bailey backstage. Bailey gets in Wentz's face. Macklin pulls him away, and it seems like we're setting up for a match with either Zachary Wentz or Trey Miguel with Speedball at some point very soon. We then get Knockouts tag team action as the Decay, the TNA Knockouts tag team champions, take on Mila Moore and Savannah Thorne. I'll be honest with you guys, no disrespect to Mila Moore or Savannah Thorne. I am not familiar with them. And given how this match was presented, I'm not necessarily mad at myself. This was a squash match as the Decay destroyed this makeshift team, or maybe makeshift team. I'm not even entirely sure. The Decay, being Rosemary and Jessica Havoc, are proven to be absolutely dominant. This is not the same team that we were watching a couple of months ago or even earlier last year. They are dominant, they are unstoppable, and they are scary. They are putting on a clinic, just destroying these two women. And after their tag team finish onto one of them, Rosemary, all she needed to do was scare the other one from coming in as Havoc got the 1, 2, 3. We have a tweet. That's it. I've seen enough. I'm a fan of the Decay. They are incredible. Now, obviously, that was a showcase match. They showed them off because they are the new TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champions. But regardless, they are very good. I can't wait to see how the rest of their reign goes. I agree. I think it's all but certain we're either going to get a rematch with MK Ultra moving forward, or we're going to see some form of a multi-tag team match. But now that MK Ultra know who they're dealing with this new version of the Decay, I'm very excited to see the proverbial unstoppable force meeting the immovable object with these two teams. Just absolute juggernauts. Speaking of MK Ultra, they announced that they want their rematch at No Surrender, but Jody Threat and Danny Luna interrupt and stake their claim. They had a little bit of friction last week as MK Ultra beat them down after they won a tag team match. Luna then pitches a one-on-one match between Masha and Jody for later tonight. We then go to our brand new backstage show for TNA, Soundcheck, hosted by Alan Angels. You know him, you love him, the Dark Order, number 5. This is his first edition of Soundcheck with guest Josh Alexander, somebody that he pestered last week to get to be his first guest. Alexander somewhat reluctantly agreed, but here we are. Angels calls this Josh's biggest accolade yet, having been his first guest. Josh said he's fought for and earned everything, but Angel says there's someone Josh hasn't acknowledged. They go back and forth before Alexander walks off. Angels then tells fans to check out the next episode. I like Alan Angels. I'm really liking him more here in TNA than I ever really got to like him in AEW. He was just literally background extra number 5 for the Dark Order for a lot of things, even though on Being the Elite, he was definitely more of a character. But he's starting to find his footing here in TNA, and especially after breaking up from the Design. And I don't know if Soundcheck is necessarily going to be the thing for him, but at least it's a platform for him to be able to interact with people, something that he never really had much of a reason to previously. So we'll see how the next episode goes. But we move on to our next singles. Oh, we have something from a tweet. So how do we feel about Alan Angel's show known as the Soundcheck? Obviously, there's more story to tell, but the big thing to take away from the segment is that the walking weapon, Josh Alexander, wants to earn his way to another TNA World Championship. Again, this isn't necessarily surprising. I guess maybe this is the first time he's verbalized it, but even that I can't really prove. This felt more like this is going to be some level of distraction for Josh if he has to deal with Angels moving forward. But who knows? Maybe this was literally just a way of giving Josh a platform to announce what his goals are moving forward in 2024 as we get closer to No Surrender, the next pay-per-view at the end of this month on February 23rd. We then move forward to our next 1v1 match as we had the most professional Brian Myers taking on Kevin Knight. This is the second week in a row that Kevin Knight was presented in a meaningful way. It's hard as a TNA viewer to explain how good Brian Myers has become in TNA. Not that he's become good, not that he was bad all these years, but when we were presented as the jobber of all jobbers, the man who could not get a win in WWE, it's hard to explain to people just how well he's been presented so far in TNA. This was a hard-hitting back-and-forth match where really Myers kind of won clean with a roster-cut clothesline. He looked not necessarily dominant, but he looked formidable against this popular young talent in Kevin Knight. I know this was done more to get some rub on the system, to get some more love for the system. This new group or new-ish group that TNA is presenting as a big deal in the main event scene because Moose is the TNA World Champion. So I do appreciate that we're seeing the other members of the team at the very least look competent and somewhat formidable. Kevin Knight isn't that high on the pecking order, but it's still, we're seeing Brian Myers getting wins that he's earning on his own. He initially came out with Eddie Edwards and Alicia Edwards, but he fought this match by himself. Now, granted, that's not how things followed afterwards, as Eddie does come out to the ring with Alicia, and they circle Kevin Knight before Kushida, the time splitter himself, runs down to even the odds. The system exited the ring, and they say they will fight on their time when they're ready. Kevin Knight being a product of the New Japan Dojo in LA, not surprising to see Kushida come out to his aid. We'll see. We're starting to see multiple people have issue with the system, not just former TNA World Champion Alex Shelley. Let's see how we move on from that. But speaking of Alex Shelley, we're going to go to his Motor City Machine Gun tag team partner and current X Division champion, Chris Sabin, who is backstage with Mean Gia Miller herself. Producer boy, I'm sorry if I missed that tweet. If you want to pull it up again, you can. I was looking at a separate thing on the screen. But me and Gia Miller speaking with Sabin backstage about Mustafa Ali calling himself the X Factor. Sabin says he knows Ali and calls him impressive. We suddenly cut to an Ali vignette backstage as he talks about bringing something new to TNA to dethrone Chris Sabin and to take the X Division Championship. I was not expecting Ali to debut anywhere as a heel, but that seems to be the vibe we're getting here. These, we have a tweet, Mustafa Ali coming for Chris Sabin. Oh my. It seems to be, he's very clearly making a fun political play with these videos. He's very clearly trying to work in a gimmick that he was trying to establish in WWE that he never had the opportunity to. Let's see if it'll pay off. I know that Ali is going to be on a world tour in 2024, taking on as many people as possible and as many companies as possible. We have a tweet, Mustafa Ali versus Chris Sabin. Shut up and take my money. That match is going to be fantastic. I do know that House of Glory, I'm not sure if it's going to be at their New York show in March or if in their WrestleMania weekend show. I know Mustafa Ali is supposed to take on former TNA World Champion and Sabin's not former partner, but Sabin's partner, Alex Shelley. So he's going through the Motor City Machine Guns. Let's see how long it takes before he gets through the rest of the TNA roster. We then go to an in-ring segment as Frankie Kazarian reminds fans that he wanted to come back to this company a year ago and help with the TNA revival. But he also came for himself. He wants to because he's earned that right. He calls himself a hero, and he became a monster in order to succeed. He runs down Eric Young's success, but he says he will not be taken for granted anymore. He then told fans that they have... Ooh, pull that back up, producer boy. He then tells the fans, you all have permission to hate me now. This was a very strong promo from Kazarian. It could very easily have bordered on corny, hokey heel stuff, like casual, like typical heel stuff. But he did do everything right. It's Kazarian saying in a tweet, he walks a higher path, and if he has to walk that path alone, so be it. Kazarian, we talked about it before the heel turn here in the Gym Pack Zone, that Kazarian had a lot of momentum when he came back to TNA, getting a world title shot, doing a lot, and feeling important. The last couple of months, he's sort of fallen back into a less important role, a less substantial role, and I immediately questioned his teaming with Eric Young. It was nice for a little nostalgia play, considering they were both TNA originals, but not necessarily something I wanted to see moving forward. Thankfully, it was never meant to last, and while I think Kazarian could have been a heel a little bit sooner, we're here now, and that's all that matters. Reading a tweet, hey, TNA fans, y'all cool and all, but don't tell Frankie Kazarian to shut up. Between the tying together the references to everything he's done since coming back and the famous Green Goblin Path of the Hero speech, this man is giving a masterclass promo. Like I said, this promo could have easily not worked with somebody else and could have easily been forgettable with someone else, but Kazarian really brought it tonight. So great work from Frankie. Not always the promo guy, in my opinion. You know, we always relied on Christopher Daniels to make that magic happen, but Kazarian really proving that this move to TNA was the right move for him, as he was floundering and just being lost in AEW. We then have a backstage segment as the System is celebrating when Alex Shelley tells Moose that he wants his rematch for the title, presumably at No Surrender. We then have a vignette for Ash by Elegance, formerly known as Dana Brooke. I am happy that they're trying to make her feel like a big deal. These vignettes always do go a long way, but I need to see her in the ring soon. She absolutely needs to show what everyone is worried about, that she isn't going to keep up with these knockouts in this stacked division. I think she's more than capable. I think she's grown a lot, and I don't think people were really willing to see that growth by the end of her WWE run because of how long it took to get there. I'm willing to give her a shot here. No harm, no foul. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I think she can do it. She might not be the best that division is going to have to offer, but she is definitely going to be a competent part of the knockouts. We then go to the ring as Diener grabs a mic and announces that the design is dead. It was kind of hilarious as the crowd gave an awkward, exaggerated, sarcastic no to that. We've all been waiting for the design to go away, unfortunately. Nothing against Diener, nothing against Khan, but Alan Angels was smart to leave that group when he did. He admits that the design's death might be his fault, and he says that, but it doesn't matter. Dead things are meant to stay dead, and that triggers PCO's music, and he comes down for a match. PCO made quick work of Diener, hitting the double knees to the chest in the corner. He drops him to the mat and then goes for the PCO salt, getting the 1-2-3. Immediately after the match, Big Khan runs up from behind and attacks PCO. Khan then helps Diener to his feet, who looks excited, a little confused, but then Khan yells at him, "It's over when I say it's over," and then just breaks Diener with a vicious, vicious clothesline. As PCO is trying to get up and mount a comeback against Big Khan, Khan kind of smothers him. He goes for a chokeslam, but not from the throat. He goes from the top of the head, drives him up, drives him down, and then just keeps his hand over the mouth of PCO, essentially suffocating him. Big Khan standing tall, again, not what I was expecting in 2024, but they need big guys, they need monsters, and they needed the design to be over. We then go backstage. We then have I agree with this tweet. PCO's new entrance is so good, as PCO is in black and white on the screen, lying in a gurney, and then being brought to life with a car battery by medical professionals who clearly know what they're doing, using a car battery, bringing someone back to life. I will say PCO was looking a little slow in this match, which shouldn't be shocking given his age and given everything he's put his body through. But maybe they need him to be a little more active if he's going to keep coming back every once in a while and need that time to warm up. This tweet saying, "I feel like we need to get a PCO Timeless Tony Storm combined entrance." That is definitely a classic meeting a horror film, and I'd be all for it. How much weirder can we get? Why not? We then go to a backstage segment as AJ Francis, formerly known as Top Dollar, once again tries to reach out to Rich Swann in the locker room and pitches working together, talking about how on Explosion, yes, guys, TNA Explosion is back on Tuesdays. You could watch it. I don't know if I'm going to cover it here because I'm sure they go over most of it on Impact. But after Swann lost to Hendry, who Anthony Francis does have beef with, he is trying to get back in Rich Swann's good graces. Producer boy, can you pull that back up? I didn't really get a chance to read it. Francis tweeting, "But if I go poaching for ivory horns, then all of a sudden I'm the bad guy," shaking my head. That alluding to, after once again being rebuffed by Rich Swann. Rhino walks by, and Francis thinks he's going to be able to convince Rhino to team up, but Rhino tells him to politely fuck off. He says that's why rhinos are going extinct, and then tries working over Swann again. Swann then tells Francis that no one wants him here in TNA, and that is the end of the segment. I do really kind of like that they are acknowledging how much people are hesitant to get behind AJ Francis. Top Dollar was a joke in WWE. We have a tweet from Francis. Man, Michael Cole wishes he was as good as me. Michael Cole wishes he was as good as me on commentary. Tom Hannafin actually brought me that goat hat because he looks up to me. TNA 8 o'clock on Access TV. I am going to say Tom Hannafin didn't do that. And admittedly, I will give this one to Francis. He probably has every right to have some beef with Michael Cole. But I am appreciating the fact that they're acknowledging that Top Dollar in WWE was a joke. Not necessarily a guy that anyone would really believe to be worthwhile teaming with in TNA. But as is most processes with TNA, I am very excited to see the journey, and I'm interested to see if they're going to be able to rehabilitate Francis. Oh my God. Watching AJ Francis's first match in GCW, and this is amazing. It's Francis hitting a running knee into a corner and then flipping over the rope. I really want to believe that was on purpose because, Jesus, that'd be impressive. Not in a good way if it wasn't. We then go to a video package highlighting to me what was the coolest part of WWE's Royal Rumble, and that was TNA Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace appearing in the Royal Rumble and having an excellent showing. Guys, I can tell you, I for the most part enjoyed the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. I was on record saying Jordynne Grace was the best part of the Women's Rumble, which was the best part of the night. We had a tweet, holy shit, Jordynne Grace is in the Royal Rumble as with the TNA title. She came out, she was acknowledged as TNA Knockouts champion. She had that belt. She was wearing TNA colors on her gear, and she got in the ring with the woman who returned to WWE. In TNA, she was known as Trinity. Back in WWE, she's known as Naomi. And she got in the ring with the woman she took the TNA Knockouts title from. It was an excellent moment. She talks about in this promo how she couldn't believe that it was happening, her entire family there to support her, and how this has been a dream of hers since she was 9 years old. Jordynne has gone on record saying on Twitter and in interviews, this will not be the last time that we see her interacting with WWE or seeing TNA interacting with WWE. And I am very much looking forward to what this relationship could look like. We found out that Scott D'Amore was the one who reached out to Jordynne to confirm if she wanted to do it, that WWE were the people who reached out to TNA to make this happen. It wasn't TNA reaching and seeing what they could get. Very happy to see this incredible division being highlighted on a grander scale. And yes, next week on Impact, we will have Jordynne Grace teaming with Trinity against Giselle Shaw and Savannah Evans of the Shawntourage. I guess we have a little bit more of Trinity. This is definitely part of a new set of tapings. This isn't the tapings from Hard to Kill. So that means they probably had Trinity around a little bit longer. So I wouldn't be necessarily shocked if next week isn't her last week, but it could go either way. Either way, happy to see she did not just fade away after losing to Grace, and she's going to be able to get a little more TV time in the Impact Zone. But moving forward, we then get to our knockout singles match of the night as Masha Slamovich took on Jody Threat. This was a pretty standard match. Not that it was bad. I don't want to say it was bad, but nothing overtly memorable. Masha, of course, being a very dominant force against the explosive Jody Threat. The finish came as Killer Kelly was distracting Threat in the ring and then gets taken out by Danny Luna. What's his comment from Eric? Feels like a Christian Ric Flair situation there. In regard to what? The back and forth deal that TNA got something, WWE got something. Maybe, but I wonder what TNA, granted, the exposure is what TNA is getting, but this just feels like synergy, corporate synergy, because TNA has a partnership going on with TKO, the larger group that WWE is now part of. I'm not sure if it's specifically TKO or the larger company that is Endeavor, but either way, they're kind of working together in some capacity. So it'll be interesting to see how much further that goes and how much bigger that goes. But regardless, yes, the finish came with Killer Kelly distracting Jody Threat in the ring, Kelly getting taken out by Danny Luna on the outside, but giving Slamovich just enough time to hit the snowplow on Threat, getting the 1-2-3. We then cut to the back where the System is beating down Kushida and Alex Shelley makes the save. It seems we're going to have gang warfare moving forward with the System, and the Motor City Machine Guns might not be, Time Machine, as they are known as when Kushida's tagging with them, might not be at full capacity. I prefer Killer Kelly over most of the divas. Killer Kelly is pretty damn awesome. Pretty damn awesome. And the TED show is actually pretty good so far. I'm enjoying it. We then cut to the back, like I said, the System beating down Kushida. We then have the match made official for No Surrender, Moose versus Alex Shelley for the world title, as well as Jordan Grace defending the Knockouts title against Giselle Shaw, who won that Ultimate X match to gain the #1 contender spot for the Knockouts title. Finally, we are ready for our main event. Oh, yep, these are some of the matches so far. We have Josh Alexander versus Eddie Edwards. We have Moose defending the TNA World title against Alex Shelley. And we have Jordan Grace defending the Knockouts title against Giselle Shaw. Hard to kill, not hard to kill, No Surrender shaping up to be a pretty strong card. But moving on, we are getting ready for our main event as the TNA tag team titles are being decided in a best-of-3 series as Bullet Club's tag team champions, the ABC, Chris Bay and Ace Austin, defend against GYV, the Grizzled Young Vets. You know them from NXT, maybe. They are an old-school team with a lot of grit, and they are definitely injecting a very unique style into TNA, something that TNA isn't always necessarily known for. Out the gate, this was a great match, a great way to start this series. I'll spoil the ending for you. GYV, the Grizzled Young Vets, get the win after they choke out Ace Austin with a towel and then hits the grit your teeth on Ace for the 1-2-3. I just got to say it. I will love ABC as long as it goes. I will be cheering for this team as long as it exists. But both Chris Bay and especially Ace Austin have what it takes to be world champions in TNA. They have Ace Austin. I was talking about it earlier in the show. TNA is lacking that like genuine star to build the company around. In my heart of hearts, Ace Austin could be that guy. He's got the charisma. He's got the ring work. He's got the look. He is the total package, in my opinion. And again, rooting for the ABC to be a dominant tag team for years to come. But if Ace motherfucking Austin, as that tweet was showing, hitting high flying moves, hitting a tope suicida to the outside to one of the Grizzled Young Vets. Bay was also amazing in this match, but this really was Austin's time to shine, taking on GYV in a 2-on-1 situation for essentially the back half of the match. Yeah, guys, I am not surprised by the outcome of this match. We have another too sweet teamwork from Austin and Bay. These guys just have it. For a team that was essentially thrown together in TNA when they both became Bullet Club members under Jay White, it's like they've been teaming together their entire careers with how smooth they are, with how fluid they are, and just the chemistry that those guys have. Another tag team move being shown on a tweet between Ace Austin and Chris Bay. I'm not surprised by the finish of this match. having the heels, having the challengers win the first match establishes that they are credible contenders. Even if they don't win the series, even if they don't win the titles, they make a very strong argument that if this wasn't a series, if this wasn't a best out of three, they'd be the TNA Tag Team Champions right now because they beat the champs. So no matter what moves forward, GYV looking very dominant in the TNA Tag Team division. I can't confirm that they're signed to TNA at this point. I don't know that they're making an impact as TNA is trying to get going over. But even if they are here for a short bit, they are already proving that their weight is worth it. Their weight in gold is there. So good for GYV making a splash coming out of NXT, wanting to leave WWE, and ABC meeting them front and center for an excellent, excellent main event in TNA. But guys, that was tonight's episode of TNA Impact. I thought it was a fun show. This was the first time in a while that I think the energy was a little bit lower, but that's not to say any of the matches were bad or the show didn't deliver. I thought this was an excellent main event and a great way to start building towards the most director coming up towards the kill. But yeah, guys, you know the drill by now. If you like the video, hit like. We appreciate it. If you want to speak more about TNA or pretty much anything in wrestling, as we cover everything here at the Mark It Down podcast, whether it's WWE, AEW, TNA, sometimes New Japan, Ring of Honor, we do it. We love talking wrestling with you guys. So please hit subscribe, be a part of this family, be a part of this community, and leave those comments. That way we can hear what you have to say, and I can tell you if I agree or not. And if you can't be watching us right now, you could always hear us. We are streaming on, I think, every audio platform, but you could definitely listen to us on Spotify and other places. And if you're just looking for a good chuckle, check us out on our social media. Danny kills it with the memes, killing it with the content. We are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, we are on X, we are on TikTok. I think that's it. I don't know if the kids are still using MySpace, but we should get on that too, I think. Make a note of that, producer boy. Regardless, I am James Chisanti. This was the Gym Pag Zone, and this is Mark It Down. And as always, remember, watch wrestling, watch TNA. Producer boy, take us home.